Hello and welcome to another listener episode where I'm going to answer your question. I look very bright and washed out. It is Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. I hope you had some kind of good memory to pull from Thanksgiving. I know holidays, there are so many extra social norms, social, I'd say, performances attached to holidays, right? Your kid must enjoy lights and Santa and hot cocoa and this and this, and that can be really intimidating. It can feel like, wow, we as a family are just failing miserably. I hope that as you continue, you may build a resilience and a tolerance for who cares? We are living and we are happy, and my kid is happy. And that you're able to flow with the ebbs and flows of all of those experiences. I hope you're able to do you. You know what I mean? Yeah. So let me read this one for you. It's from my friend Ashley. It says, "Hi, I'm so excited to have found you on TikTok." I'm a TikTok follower. My TikTok is Laura Hales 28, by the way. She says, "I have a very horrible start. I have had, Jeepers Creepers. Let me do that again. I have had a very horrible start of school year for my 6-year-old autistic son. They call me several times a week complaining about his behaviors and lack of participation. We are in a smaller school district, and I really don't think any of the staff understands the struggles of autism. They are making it rough on him and even worse for me. I'm not going to punish my child when he gets home for his, quote, bad behaviors. He doesn't even understand he's being bad. He can't cope and gets overstimulated at times and then freaks out and cries. They refer to that as bad behaviors. I've watched several of your videos now and going to watch them all probably tonight." Oh, that's so sweet. "You are giving me hope because right now I feel like I'm ready to pull him out of school and homeschool him myself. How do I know he is being treated fairly at school? I would never know. He was nonverbal until age 4.5. He is now 6 and mostly talking in full sentences and has a wide vocabulary. I have worked tirelessly with him his entire life to get to where he is now, and I'm not letting a school take that away. I'm so glad you're on TikTok spreading awareness and advice to parents about this. Thank you so much." Oh, I'm going to start documenting way more than I currently do. Yes. I usually just hang up the phone after a phone call and roll my eyes. Ooh, I hear you. So a couple things, and let me go from the top down. Several times a week, complaining about his behaviors and lack of participation. So oftentimes when I talk straightforward to teachers about, I'm requesting this data, this documentation, I'm requesting this report, I'm requesting, a lot of times my requests, because we live in a passive aggressive kind of communicative environment and culture in America, at least, a lot of times when I make those requests or communications, they take it personally. They take it as like a, what are you saying about my job? What are you demanding of me? When really I'm speaking very kindly. I'm well within my rights. I'm not attempting to be aggressive. I'm simply requesting what is appropriate and within our legal rights to request. So you describe this as times a week complaining about his behaviors and lack of participation. I would pose the question for you, and you could be totally accurate. Um, is it possible that they are communicating to you about his behaviors and lack of participation, and that it feels like they are complaining? And I know our mama hearts, parent hearts are quite defensive. That's not a bad thing, but it often can make it tricky to hear not great stuff, not great events, how our child is not doing well in a classroom. So, again, they could literally be complaining. I'm not saying that you are wrong, but I do think it's something to think about. Are they just communicating the events, or are they saying, this is what happened today, and trying to create that documentation for you? Okay, further on down the email. "I'm not going to punish my child when he gets home for his, quote, bad behaviors. He doesn't even understand he's being bad." I think that's really important to recognize. He can't cope and gets overstimulated at times and then freaks out and cries. So when he gets overstimulated at times, has he had a functional behavioral assessment or an FBA? Again, I'll say that again. It's a functional behavioral assessment. It's an assessment that is created, documented, to determine and create a BIP or behavior intervention plan. So the behavior intervention plan would hopefully it becomes part of the IEP. So again, part of a legally binding document, but it identifies what are the things that he can't cope with, as you said, and that overstimulate him, and so that those meltdowns and episodes can be prevented. And then freaks out and cries. So the times when he freaks out and cries, first, I don't have a problem with someone yelling and crying. I mean, I'm going to be here and be empathetic, and I want to help them not suffer, but that is a totally, to me, appropriate form of communication. Yelling and crying, you're not hurting self, others, or property. Other teachers might think differently. I understand that can be distracting for a classroom. So I think it would be a behavior intervention plan, which again comes from a functional behavioral assessment, would dive into not only what is triggering those episodes, but also his response to those, and then what's best to de-escalate the situation, what's best for recovery and helping him recover in those situations. It's basically for anything that requires more of a detailed investigation into your child's behavior, their triggers, their sensory struggles, and then how to address those sensory struggles. So to hopefully prevent the episodes, but then once the episodes happen, what is effective as far as de-escalating? What does a meltdown look like? And it sounds like, it sounds to me like there's no behavior intervention plan. The one sentence, he can't go, gets overstimulated at times and then freaks out and cries, sounds like there's no plan for that. And that is the exact purpose of a behavior intervention plan. I'm so glad I'm giving you hope, because right now I feel like I'm about ready to pull him out of school and homeschool myself. How do I know he is being treated fairly at school? Good question, especially when your child, you said he was nonverbal until the age of 4.5. He is now 6 and talking in mostly full sentences, has a wide vocabulary. Excuse me, for those who have children that are excuse me, nonverbal or pre-verbal, that can be very tricky. Even if you have a child that is verbal, if they have a cognitive delay or are just age appropriate and don't quite understand everything that's happening, struggle with communication. You can't get clear communication or a rehearsal of events that have happened in a school situation, right? If that's the case, I would ask to stop and observe. Now, they may throw some red tape around the being able to observe in the classroom. If that's the case, I would say, I really don't feel that I'm a valuable member of this team unless I can visually assess, observe the situation as it presents itself. That way you can see what's going on in the classroom. I would also be requesting data, as I've said before, and I know that you've heard me because you talk about going to start documenting way more than I do currently. So I think you've got that idea that I would be getting everything documented. I would be requesting the data. So I would know data-wise, based on the data, whether he was progressing or not progressing. And based on that result, I could advocate that he requires more accommodations or that his accommodations are sufficient. So everything is data and evidence driven. And that data and evidence can be what you gather from the observation that you make. Again, they may say, oh, you can only observe when there's an admin present. That's what I was told, which is ridiculous. And I said, okay, is that in the typical environment? Like, is there always an admin in the room? Because otherwise, that's not the environment that my child is typically in. They tried to argue against that. And I let them know, like, I just don't think that's appropriate or reflective of the regular environment, which is what I'm trying to observe. unless you don't trust your teachers, in which case, obviously I wouldn't want my child with teachers that the administration doesn't trust to teach students without a admin present, unless you're going to be present all the time. Then I suppose that's a different situation, and you can become my son's individual aide. I would be thrilled. It sounds like you're making a lot of steps. It sounds like you need to request a functional behavioral assessment to create a behavior intervention plan. Please look up for your specific state how many days are the legal maximum for the school to respond in their functional behavioral assessment, that they have gathered the data, that they have, you've met to discuss, okay, now that we have the functional behavioral assessment data, here's what we recommend for the behavior intervention plan. As with all meetings that require new documents, like a new IEP, a new behavior intervention plan, try to request, they should be giving it to you anyway, but try to request that documentation more than, but at least 24 hours in advance, so that you have time to go over and address and be prepared with any concerns that you may have. So it's not like they're handing you a report and then suddenly you're like, okay, let me try to find in this moment, while people are telling me really important information, any thoughts and concerns I may have about this document I'm looking at. If you don't feel that you're fully ready to commit, that there's something you don't understand, do not sign. Do not sign. And you can even say, while I was present for the meeting, you can write this in the document. While I was present for the meeting, I do not consent for this to be implemented, as there are sections I do not understand. We will postpone and, talk again, meet again. I would only caution you that the behavior intervention plan, a new IEP in most states, from what I understand, I know there are some states where a signature is not required. They cannot legally, as a school, implement any new accommodations, methods, behavior intervention plan without the signature. Now, that doesn't mean you should just rush to do it, but that means until then, they have to act like that portion doesn't exist, because legally that doesn't exist yet. So while I would say take your time as far as making sure you understand and it's what you want it to be, the document, don't take a long time. Okay. That would be not good. Not good. I hope that was helpful. I know that was quite quick. You are spot on as far as they're called maladaptive behaviors, and they're behaviors that stem from or occur because of your child's disability. So when Johnny, who is a neurotypical child, when he gets mad, he socially appropriately mutters something snarky under his breath and squeezes his fist really tight. Now, that is a way that he expresses his defiance and anger. Because your child is autistic, that is not something that they're capable of doing. And their maladaptive behaviors may include yelling, may include hitting, kicking, scratching. And that doesn't mean that all these things are what we're aiming for or are okay to happen in the classroom. What I will say is that they do happen. And it's up to us as your child's IEP team, and you are part of the team. So the teacher, the admin, the specialist, the parent, to come up with how can we meet their needs so that those are not part of what they need to do to get what they need in the classroom. All behavior is communication. They are expressing a need. If we can speak the language, we can meet the need, then what happens is you end up without those behaviors. So rather than how do we punish the behaviors out of the child, it's how do we meet the child's needs so that they can focus on the progress, focus on everything else. They won't have to spend their time, effort, energy communicating their needs. It sounds so easy. I understand it's harder than I make it sound, but at the same time, it's so much less complicated sometimes than people make it sound. And perhaps that's why I have a hard time when people say, interpret the tone of how I address things in a video to teachers. They'll say I'm being snarky, and I'm like, but I'm not. And they try to like police my tone, and I'm like, I don't know I don't know what to tell you. I only know how I feel, and I only know that I'm being genuine. So I hope that was helpful. Again, I hope you had a wonderful holiday. By the time you hear this, it will be sometime in January. So hope you're hitting those new goals. Kids are back in school, back in the swing of things. I sure hope you know I'm rooting for you. You can check out my new book, should be out by now. Weird to think about. I'm living in the future. My second book, Alex and the Muffin Man, should be in stock and available to be shipped to you in person. Exciting. I have two children's illustrated books that are about autism acceptance. They are both true stories about normalizing stimming and teaching through storytelling that all behavior is communication. If you want to have a free children's visit from an author for your school or your classroom or your Girl Scout troops, and I do virtual visits all the time. I'm happy to do that. Or it can be for adults. I can cater to whatever level of experience, age, maturity is in the room. Often my adults are the less mature group, but we do end up talking about different things. We explain stimming. We talk about how we end up all stimming. Children really love that part when they realize they stim as well. I just hope that you have a good day and that you know that you're not the only one, that to hopefully live pushing your child and yourself toward the best you can be, while still wholeheartedly accepting, loving, supporting the child in you that there is right here, right now. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.